Okay, the Oscar nominations happened. Actually happened a couple days ago, but I'm busy with my football channel. That's the one that pays the bills, right? But I figured, all right, now that some dust is settled, let me give my reaction to some of the categories. I'm not going through every category, but I'm going to go through a decent chunk of them and talk about just my thoughts. I'm not someone who particularly gets very, yelly and screamy about some of this stuff. If there's a choice that I disagree with, I kind of just say, I would have done it differently. Okay, that's you, and then I move on. That's usually how I view it. So you might not get the extreme YouTuber reactions that you get from some other channels, but nonetheless, could be an interesting video, I hope. So let's just get into it. Starting off with the acting categories here. So Sterling K. Brown, Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr., Ryan Gosling, and Mark Ruffalo. I don't really have a huge issue with any of these. I think these are all fine. I mean, I guess you could have gone with William Dafoe. The Dafoe versus Ruffalo thing is interesting, right? Because they're both from Poor Things, obviously. Because I think you can maybe make the argument Dafoe was better in that movie, but wasn't in it as much. So I don't know. I have no real issue with these five. The people that maybe I would have also liked to see get in, a couple of the past lives guys there. I think that past lives in general. I think I enjoyed it more than I guess the Academy did because I really liked it. But again, these five, no real massive, I think, surprises. I mean, I think most people didn't expect Sterling K. Brown to get in, but I don't know. He was good. He definitely played that role. The movie would not have been as good if they casted a mediocre actor in that performance. So that no issue there. I think Robert Downey Jr. is probably going to win, but I wouldn't be mad at all if Ryan Gosling won. I thought he was just a lot of fun in that movie, but I don't know if the comedic performance is going to outweigh the performance in Oppenheimer in black and white. Robert Downey Jr. is probably going to be him. But also, very deserving as well. But just, again, given my opinion, that's all I'm doing here. Best Supporting Actress. Again, this one was one that riled people up. I haven't seen Nyad, so I can't talk about Jodie Foster. I can talk about the other ones, though. So Emily Blunt, Danielle Brooks, America Ferrera. That's the one that got the people going. And then Divine Joy Randolph. I think, so I haven't seen The Color Purple either, so I've only seen 3. But seems like people are pretty... we're pretty impressed with Jodie Foster and Danielle Brooks, so I'll probably see Nyad given to, how it got a couple nominations here, but, the other ones, Emily Blunt seemed like she was a lock, and I think that Divine Joy Randolph, she seems like the favorite to win with the holdovers, and then the America Ferrera one, a lot of people weren't thrilled with this, and there's a lot of different avenues to take, right? Because I think there's going to be a chunk of people that just didn't like the speech, and because they didn't like the speech, they say she shouldn't be nominated, which is, again, she didn't write the speech, right? She performed it well. Not really, her fault if you liked the speech or didn't like the speech. It does feel like she probably got nominated because of the speech, right? That feels like that's another aspect of it. And I think if you just take out the speech and just look at the performance, it was a fine performance in a really good movie, which, we've seen those get nominated before. This, to me, isn't I'm not freaking out over it. Were there performances that I would have probably put in ahead? Of course. If there's never going to be actually my 5 favorite performances getting nominated, right? That would be crazy if that happened. But yeah, from the people that were in consideration, I think Julianne Moore feels like I'm surprised she got left off, but I think the Academy just didn't love May December, so that's probably what happened there. Seems like Divine Joy Randolph is going to win, and a lot of people want Emily Blunt to win. I don't know. I like Emily Blunt as an actor. I think it's weird because I do think she's a great actor, and I do think that what she probably did in this performance was very good, because I think sometimes she wasn't given the best material and was still able to make it work. But no one really jumps out at me as they have to win. So maybe once I see The Color Purple and Nyad, it'll change my opinion. But as of right now, I guess Divine Joy Randolph would be my pick to win. The Best Actress, 5 here, Annette Bening in Nyad. So again, I haven't seen Nyad. I can't really discuss it. I heard a lot of people not thrilled with that pick. So, I'll watch Nyad and make my own opinion about it. But I have heard that. Lily Gladstone, Sandra Hüller, Carey Mulligan, and Emma Stone. Really hard to argue with the other 4, right? Gladstone, Hüller, and I'm saying Hüller. I don't know if that's actually how it's pronounced, but that's how I'm saying it. Carey Mulligan and Emma Stone. Those are 4 powerhouse performances, really. It's kind of hard to argue with any of those. The fifth one, a lot of people thought Margot Robbie deserved to be on this list. So it's interesting because there was and we'll talk about director in a second, but a couple of surprises by, Barbie, but also to get one that you wouldn't have thought they would have gotten with America Ferrera. So just interesting there. For me personally, if I had to put someone who was kind of in the Oscar consideration in that didn't get in, Greta Lee would have been my choice. Like, I think Greta Lee was fantastic in Past Lives, but again, I might have just been a simp for Past Lives. I don't know. So could Margot Robbie have gotten in? Sure. I think it's a crowded field, and I'm not like freaking out that Margot Robbie didn't get in personally. Again, I get the whole argument a little bit about, Barbie was kind of, in many ways, about how, men can often get the credit for what women do, and about feminism and stuff like that. So the fact that kind of all the men that worked on Barbie got, recognized, but some of the women didn't, I get it. I understand it. But in the vacuum here, again, I didn't see Annette Bening's performance, but in this situation, I'm not like, for me personally, it didn't, I can make an argument for the other four, and I haven't seen the fifth, so I can't really comment on that. Best actor, again, there is one I haven't seen. I have not seen Rustin yet, but from all accounts, I've heard Colman Domingo was great in it, so cool. I'll check that one out before Oscars, probably. Bradley Cooper in Maestro, yeah, absolutely. Again, there's the whole controversy of, did he just make this movie to try and win an Oscar? Whatever. He was a great performance. He deserved to be nominated. I didn't love the movie personally, but it was definitely a great performance. He definitely has to be nominated. Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. I think Cillian Murphy is going to win, and I don't really have an issue with Cillian Murphy winning. Again, who else could win? I guess Paul Giamatti would probably be the other biggest contender, and he probably would be my second pick. But yeah, I don't know. Cillian Murphy, let's just give it to him. Why not? The obvious notable snub here was Leo, but I wasn't blown away by Leo's performance in this one. I gotta be honest. Big fan of Leo, big fan of a lot of his past work, and big fan of that movie. But I don't really have an issue with him not getting in here. Again, with the four, and assuming Colman Domingo is as good as people say he is, those five, feel like they're all worthy picks. So, I don't have a big issue here. For screenplay, we'll go from one Killers of the Flower Moon snub to another one, because Killers of the Flower Moon did not get in. That was kind of the big surprise, was American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things people thought would get in. The Zone of Interest was the one that ended up squeaking in over Killers of the Flower Moon, which I haven't seen The Zone of Interest yet. I'm planning on seeing it tomorrow. It's finally been in theaters in my area. So, I wanted to see it. It hadn't been in theaters until now. So, looking forward to seeing that. Can't really comment on that. Again, that's why it's weird to do these things, right? I'm not a movie reviewer by trade. I can't make sure I go out and see everything. But, I don't know. Figured it's still interesting to have the discussion. American Fiction, I thought, again, I have no issue with the other four. And to be honest, I really like Killers of the Flower Moon. I kind of think the other four I would probably put ahead of Killers of the Flower Moon. So once I see Zone of Interest, I can make my decision there. But yeah, again, there's been some pushback on Barbie recently. I thought Barbie was, for one thing, I think it was maybe the funniest movie of the year. That's writing, right? That deserves to be, credited. And to people complaining, it's the same thing when people complain about, Avatar is, the story is too basic. I always kind of say, it's supposed to be. That's not bad writing. That's writing you don't like. And I feel like that when people complain about some of the on-the-nose dialogue in Barbie, it's no, it's trying to do that. You don't have to like it, and you don't have to think it deserves a nomination because of it. That's totally fine. Your opinion is your opinion. But it's not like they failed. It's that what their choices you didn't like, if that makes sense. So that's how I view it. Original screenplay, again, I think, again, I didn't love Maestro, so whatever, but that's a me thing. Other people like it more, so again, that's how I view things. When there's a movie I don't love that gets a bunch of nominations, I say, other people liked it, so good, glad they liked it, good for the movie, right? I don't think that movies are sports where there's things that are definitively right or wrong. And even sports isn't definitively right or wrong, but you get the point. Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Past Lives, and May December. four very good choices, four movies I enjoyed a lot. Again, my pick here. So I loved Past Lives. I don't know if it was because of the screenplay or if it was more the direction. I'm not exactly sure. Also a big fan of Anatomy of a Fall. So it'd be between those two picks. I guess I'd probably still lean Past Lives, but Anatomy of a Fall was great too. So those would be my two choices. I think The Holdovers is probably going to win though. Best Director, this was another one that had several surprises here. No Greta Gerwig. Jonathan Glazer makes it for The Zone of Interest. Again, haven't seen The Zone of Interest, but from everything I've heard, it seems like he's worthy of it. So, once I see The Zone of Interest, I'll put a review out there for it for sure. But Yorgos Lanthimos and Poor Things, kind of hard to argue with that, with all the unique stuff that movie was doing. Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer, sure. I've always kind of been a believer in Nolan, that I think that, he's more of an amazing editor than an amazing director. But either way, he's probably going to win the award. I have no issue with it. Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, yeah, again, kind of hard to argue with it. And Justin Triet, again, hard to argue with any of those five. But obviously, people wanted Greta Gerwig in. And, again, there's the whole, if she was a man, does she get in conversation that we can have? Which, again, if you watched my sports channel for a while, you might know my opinions on this kind of stuff, where it's like, I think people don't really think about things the right way. The question isn't are the voters saying, well, I don't want to vote for a woman, so let me vote for Jonathan Glazer instead? That seems highly unlikely. But is it possible that subconsciously they are more likely to vote for a man than a woman, just because that's, just how you are used to seeing things go? That is, there's actually been studies to prove that stuff does happen. So is that possible? Yes, it is possible. That being said, I do kind of wonder, if Greta Gerwig was put on the list, I'm worried Justin Triet would get knocked off, who I really think deserves the nomination. And I'm happy that because Anatomy of a Fall did so well, now it's probably going to get, more attention and more eyeballs on it, right? Barbie already has the attention. It already has the eyeballs on it. So usually if there's a big blockbuster versus a small foreign film, I'm always going to argue for the small foreign film. And Justin Triet, also a woman, obviously. So that factored in. I actually watched another Justin Triet movie. It was called Sybil. I forget exactly what it was, but it was interesting. Definitely not as good as Anatomy of a Fall, but yeah, that was fun too. But yeah, long story short, I'm usually, the point of award shows for me are get more attention on some lesser movies. Again, like Nyad, which I brought up, I'm probably going to watch now because it did well, right? For better or worse, that's probably what's going to happen. So everyone already watched Barbie. I'm happy people are going to watch Anatomy of a Fall. But yeah, it feels weird for Greta Gerwig to, if I remember correctly, she didn't get nominated for Little Woman either, but she did get nominated for Lady Bird, which is confusing to me because that feels like she did the least in her three movies the most three recent movies that she made, I should say. Just interesting stuff. But yeah, again, with the four I've seen, all great, very worthy. I think no one will win. My pick to win, I'd probably give it to Yorgos. I think I would. But yeah, all great. Also, Celine Song, I would have had on the list personally. I might have had her winning, to be honest. I thought that she definitely deserved a little bit more love. Again, I was just a big fan of Past Lives. What can I say? Original score was a surprise. This one, so American Fiction, I gotta be honest, I didn't really notice the score that much. I don't really remember it, so I'm actually gonna see it again with my fiance, so I'll pay attention to it then now that it got nominated. But yeah, I didn't really notice it, but again, that doesn't mean that it was bad. Sometimes a good, more subtle score that, works better is, the move, or maybe I just happen to not notice it because I'm stupid. I don't know. Both reasonable options. The Indiana Jones thing is hilarious. Of course, John Williams gets nominated. Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things, all, really good scores. But, the way I kind of view it is yeah, I can remember the scores. Definitely remember the, the fun Poor Things score. Killers of the Flower Moon I thought was really good. And Oppenheimer, I think, carried the movie at times, that score. I mean, and not to say that the rest of the movie, not to say the movie didn't work without the score, just that the score was that powerful and kind of transformed it into what the movie was. Again, Oppenheimer was my favorite Nolan movie. As someone who isn't, typically a huge Nolan fan, but does like some of Nolan stuff. And I think Oppenheimer was the score fantastic. To me, that should easily be the win. Was disappointed The Boy and the Heron score did not get in. That would have been definitely on my list. That might be number 2 on my list. Might be number 1 on my list. I don't know. That was really good. But out of these 5, give me Oppenheimer. And I did see Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. If it had the best score of the year, I don't know if it's saving that movie. Just saying. Although I thought the movie was fine, but I didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be. But it was just a dumb action movie. But yeah, anyway, let's move on. Cinematography, believe it or not, I did not see El Conde. I don't know if I've heard of that movie. So again, usually when that happens, they're right. Usually those movies are breathtaking when something like that happens, but I haven't seen it. So, it is what it is. Killers of the Flower Moon, sure. Maestro absolutely deserves it. Oppenheimer, sure. And then Poor Things, Poor Things, this feels like it's a lock for Poor Things to win. So, again, are there a couple movies that maybe I could look at and say, I don't know, I thought that was interesting. Like Saltburn, a lot of people talked about. I thought that had a chance to squeak in because it was very visually interesting, but maybe they weren't looking for something more stylized and instead we're looking for something more just, I don't know, because like Killers of the Flower Moon is stylized, but like in a different way and more of a grounded, real way. Then I think about it, Killers of the Flower Moon, absolutely. That and Oppenheimer, I think definitely deserved to be on. So it's like, I guess maybe you could argue like Saltburn over Oppenheimer, but I wouldn't agree with that. I think those four just have to be on. Some of the shots in Oppenheimer were great, and I haven't seen El Conde, so can't comment on that. But I think they got it right out of the four that I've seen for sure. Film editing, I was, before the Oscars, I just while I'm editing, I just listened to a ton of podcasts and stuff. So I listened to a podcast of someone, it's actually a YouTube video, but I don't know, an hour-long YouTube video where they just talk. It's essentially a podcast where, they talked about the film editing, and they didn't bring up Anatomy of a Fall. And in my head, I was like, well, I think it could get in because that beginning was so edited so interestingly, and it had so many choices throughout. So I was glad to see it get in. Again, Anatomy of a Fall did really well. The holdovers, again, sure. Killers of Flower Moon, sure. Oppenheimer, absolutely. And then Poor Things, again, sure. It's like, the weird thing is like, the movies like The Holdovers, Killers, and Poor Things, the way it was edited, Poor Things had some unique editing choices in there as well, but The Holdovers and Killers were both kind of just edited the way that it was, intended to be made, right? Like, there's not like a ton of bold choices, don't get me wrong. Always a million choices you have to make when editing a movie, of course, but I always find it weird, just the film editing award in general, because like, how do you know what the editor was doing and what the, what was the footage, right? Because sometimes you'll see certain shots and people will be like, oh, wow, this was poorly edited. But then it's like, well, what was the footage? Like, maybe that's all they have. Maybe like a lot of times continuity errors aren't the fault of an editor. That's what they have to do because that's all the footage they have. So they have to, make one sacrifice and they choose a continuity error, things like that. So I don't know exactly how to give it to, but I always kind of view it as, if you assume there was perfect footage and everything, which one would you give it to? That's typically how I try to view it. And in that case, I think, again, Oppenheimer was doing so much. I think it's a lock at this point to win. Finally, Best Picture, American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. I've actually seen 9 out of the 10, which is a lot more than I usually have seen by the time that the Oscars are nominated. Usually I've seen 5 or 6 of them, and then if I want to, watch the rest of them. So The Zone of Interest, in a couple of days, I will have watched all 10 of these. Again, don't really have a huge issue with this list. In fact, I really like this list a lot. Out of the 9 that I've seen, 8 of these movies, I believe I rated a 7 out of 10 or higher. So that's really good. Like, that usually doesn't happen. Again, I didn't love Maestro. That's fine. It just wasn't for me personally. I have a review on this channel that was review, but it was also kind of talking about the Bradley Cooper quote-unquote controversy, whatever you want to make it out to be. And then, The Zone of Interest I'm very interested in. So out of the 9 that I've seen so far, what would I have winning? I think Past Lives would be my pick personally, as in what I would want to win. Oppenheimer's going to win. Like, that's just going to happen, I think. The question is, is there anything that could potentially sneak up and beat Oppenheimer? Like, could that happen? Maybe The Holdovers could find a way. Like, maybe American Fiction might actually be the one that, a lot of people hadn't seen it earlier, and maybe now more people are seeing it, more people like it, and Oppenheimer did happen a minute ago now, so people could start to forget about it. And it's weird, because Oppenheimer's just been the front runner, since it came out. So usually once something becomes a front runner and something else passes it. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think, I guess maybe Anatomy of a Fall. That's the other one you could look at, but I don't know if that's going to surpass it. I think American Fiction might be my dark horse pick if anything is going to pass it. But I don't think anything is going to pass it. I think Oppenheimer's going to win. Past Lives would be my pick of what I would want to win, though. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Oscar nominees. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.